Okay, and welcome to another video podcast from Mr. Summerhaze with these silly hats. This one's on the invasion of Abyssinia. Okay, so where do we start? Start probably in the 1890s, 1896, when the Italians are humiliated at Dawa in Abyssinia. And Abyssinia, or Ethiopia, was one of the two countries that weren't swallowed up by the great empires in the scramble for Africa. So, Italy had been humiliated. They had land next to Abyssinia, for example, Italian Somaliland, and Mussolini wanted to make himself look good. He wanted prestige. He wanted his government to be seen as like a new Roman Empire. And for that he needed to invade countries. Now, he'd done it quite subtly in the 20s. By 1930 the Depression had hit, and he was under even more pressure to get a military victory, and Abyssinia was the obvious place. So even though the French and the British had kind of recognised Italy's sphere of influence in 1906, Abyssinia had been an independent country with its leader Haile Selassie in charge. And ironically, Italy tried to and succeeded in getting Abyssinia to become part of the League of Nations in the 1920s. That was in 1924, and Italy had also signed a treaty of friendship with Abyssinia in 1928. But by 1930 it was obvious that Mussolini wanted to invade, and by 1932 he'd got the plans drawn up. He bided his time though, and there was an incident in 1934, the end of 1934, a place called Walwal, where there was a skirmish between Ethiopian and Italian troops. Now, this probably wasn't staged by Mussolini, but it gave him a good excuse to intervene, and the League of Nations got involved. So, what did the League do? Well, first of all, they set up a committee of 5 to investigate the matter, and they suggested that there would be a 2-month period of negotiation for Italy and Abyssinia to try and sort out a deal. Britain and France had kind of already given a green light to Mussolini, or so he thought, in Abyssinia. French had actually given him a free hand in economic matters in the country in January 1935. And Britain had not mentioned it at the Stresa front. Therefore, Mussolini thought both of these things meant that those two countries would not stop him invading that country, especially as they were two of the biggest colonial imperialistic countries going. Now, they were, but that did not necessarily mean that they were going to let Italy get away with it. They'd already got their empires, and post-World War I, it was frowned upon, especially by America, to continue your colonial expansion. So they weren't necessarily, even though they'd admitted they got no interest in the area, going to let Italy get away with it, especially seeing as public opinion in both countries, especially in Britain, was so pro-League of Nations, and this going against the League of Nations at a time near a general election. Public opinion was going to matter, was going to count.